Baldness and pale skin are the worst. 150% chance of vampirism. I think it's safe to say The Walking Dead and The Mummy Returns have a bit of a rotten history. They don't like each other very much, so when an ancient Lahmian bloodsucker comes home to roost, Settra will beat her with 30 chariots for her insolence. Try to anyway. Easier said than done. And this battle's got it all. Blood Knights, zombie dragons, the Blessed Legion of demonetized, and stalkers shifting silently through the sands. When the undead march to war against each other, things get quite interesting. Settra the Imperishable is riding dirty upon his resplendent war chariot with the crown of Nehakara and no spells whatsoever. It's important for me to note here that his crown does not buff himself at all, so I do not recommend bringing it ever. It's kind of lame because the stat bonuses synergize exceptionally well with the Chariot of the Gods, but he doesn't get any benefit from it. I mean, he'd be at 108 charge bonus, so bring his Blessed Blade of Patra instead. You'll actually get some use out of that instead of random AoE buffs that don't really help or synergize with the Tomb Kings at all. Now for his casting, he has a Light Wizard to alley-oop it for the ranged tools, Shem's Burning Gaze, Nun of Amantok, and Nephra Scrolls, with Tomb Guard, Nakar Warriors, and Halberds as the infantry, and the Blessed Legion of Demonetized Archers. Difficult unit to keep online and functioning against the vampire counts, but if they're able to sunder the armor of a netted target, follow-up shots from the Chosen of the Gods, and Stalkers should be exceptionally devastating. Across the desert fly the vampires of Lamia, coming home to reclaim what was once theirs. The Lahmian Vampire Lady on a zombie dragon, leading the horde with Nahek, Raised Dead, Enfeebling Foe, Pendulum, the Scepter of Stability for magic resist, and her tried and true methods of seduction. Though I'm not sure how well those would actually work against Tomb Kings. They're already boning everything that moves, am I right, boys? But yeah, she's a beast, as most of the Bloodlines lords are. They're pretty scary. Tons of ways she can impact the battlefield alongside those Blood Knights, arguably the best cav unit in the game, kinda hard to skip over them, and Graveguard great weapons are the mainline infantry. They'll beat Tomb Guards, so the Tomb Kings have to rely on their constructs and single entities to weather the storm. Now, Blood Knights are a force of nature in this matchup. There's no other way to put it. They're awesome to look at, they're fun to use, and they have amazing combat potential, so it's no wonder they're picked so frequently. They can mulch some of the constructs on the Tomb Kings roster, they can put a ton of pressure on their back line, they have tons of mobility, and of course they can heal models from Invocation of Nahek. And there's a carrion floating overhead, they're being seduced. Doesn't seem it's working that well, they're running away, and they should. It's a Lahmian Vampire Lady. They don't really want to be fighting her in close quarters combat, not with the Terragusen flying overhead either. And normally what you'll see from the Tomb Kings here is they'll go for a large single entity that has flaming damage. So Sphinx of Usek or Hyro Titan are both pretty common picks in this matchup, so you can deal with the Terrorgeist Goon Squad if the Vampire Counts player decides to bring one. And there's a Terrorgeist on the field, so that would be useful. So would the Blessed Blade of Patra to imbue that flaming damage. But no use for it here. Has not been picked. Gone for a much wider infantry core. Now, Direwolves out on this flank, skirting around, getting shot up by the Chosen of the Gods. It's going to hurt a little bit. And for the Tomb Kings, the big thing will be keeping the Sepulchre Stalkers online. The Eyes in the Desert are going to have to work overtime in this battle to deal with the Zombie Dragon and deal with the Blood Knights. But thankfully, they're a unit that certainly can do so. And Settra is going to mulch this Vampire Count infantry. 100 charge bonus, whether the Crown of Nakar is affecting him or not, is rather irrelevant. He is brutal on the charge, and he can John Deere lawnmow his way through their ranks like so many blades of grass. I like the Shem's Burning Gaze pick here. You don't see as much Magic Missile play anymore, which is probably a good thing if the opening weeks of Warhammer 1's meta are anything to go by. But for sniping models off Blood Knights or putting pressure on the Terrorgeist, certainly not terrible, especially because it deals flaming damage, although of course healing will counteract it. Settra's cruising down the street in his 6'4", jocking the biddies, slapping the hose, and with one single charge, oriented beautifully down the length of their battle line, dealt 2,000 damage and killed 20 whites. That is scrumptious. That is but a taste of the terror he can unleash against Vampire Count's infantry. Yeah, that's exactly how you want to do it. Hit them on the flank, go right through the entire formation, then pull out. You don't have to worry about going through and then back out the way you came. It can kind of screw you up when you're trying to cycle charge over and over again. If you hit them from the flank, you deal more damage and it's easier to escape, which is exactly what you want. Stalkers already firing in on top of the Zombie Dragon. Remember that Nun of Amantok will be pretty important for slowing down the aggression of the Zombie Dragon and laying it up so that the Chosen of the Gods and Sepulchral Stalkers can fire in. And already, Lahmian Vampire took a pretty decent amount of damage from a couple volleys, so she will have to retreat. Vampire accounts are overloading the right flank currently, looking to break that side quickly so they can push in and break down the ranged options for the Tomb Kings. But the big question is, which boners can flex their non-existent muscles harder and win the grind? 2 Graveguard with great weapons are the biggest threat from the infantry, but the Tomb Kings have more bodies on the field, and they have more mid-tier troops, and they have a bunch of Tomb Guard on the field as well, so they certainly aren't out of this melee grind in any way, shape, or form. Nice net of Ammontok on the Terrorgeist, the bat shrieking its displeasure to the heavens. Eyes in the Desert are immediately on the case, slithering over and unleashing a few poison volleys. See how much damage this does here. Yeah, the armor of the Terrorgeist is actually already sundered, and nice volley too, dealing about 900 damage or so. So the Terrorgeist felt those effects pretty hard, and another volley coming in right now. Yeah, Terrorgeist will have to move. Blood Knights took a Shem's Burning Gaze, but I think most of that magic missile hit the Sepulchral Stalkers, so maybe a little bit of friendly fire. Zombie Dragon landing in and amidst them. That's maybe a little bit of an overzealous engagement, but here come the Blood Knights on the prowl alongside the Dire Wolves, and as expected, the Blessed Legion archers unable to stay online, sandwiched between a rear charge and a zombie summon. They at least generated a little value shooting into the Terrorgeist, but probably not worth the cost, and they should crumble out after that charge. Blood Knights into the Chosen of the Gods and Nakara Warriors. Lahmian Vampire Lady completely surrounded by the Eyes in the Desert, and she will look to retreat from that engagement. Certainly not going to go well for her. And that Terrorgeist already looking super low as a net of Ammontok reaches the Vampire Lady, and more of these brutal armor-piercing volleys hitting the Zombie Dragon. So far, the net of Ammontok play and the Eyes in the Desert play has been exceptional. Really well played from Templorio, who's playing the Tomb Kings. Black Dead is playing the Vampire Counts, by the way. Probably should have mentioned that earlier. Been an interesting game thus far. Templorio putting on a showcase with how to effectively utilize Sepulchral Stalkers. Until then, oh my god. Commentator's curse. As I say that, they get rear charged by Blood Knights. Up to this point, they've been working overtime, but they are squishy if they can't force a frontal engagement, and that charge might be the beginning of the end for the Stalkers. But meanwhile, Settra is racking up them kills with the Graveguard, just absolutely blending all of them. It looks like they're all about to crumble out, and he's well over 100 kills at this point. Terrorgeist continues to get shot by the Shem's Burning Gaze from the Lightcaster, the Lich Priest, who manages to escape from a rather dicey situation, and the Chosen of the Gods, Ushabti, tied up in melee with a Zombie Dragon who's affected by Invocation of Nehek, and that might have caught a Blood Knight unit as well. Stalkers are not out of this yet, but the Zombie Summon will tie them up even longer. They need to escape from that situation while the Tomb Guard and Nakara Warriors give them some semblance of cover. Terrorgeist looks like it's about to crumble out pretty soon. Maybe one more magic missile will be able to put the nail in that thing's coffin. Settra finished off all the infantry on this side, and I guess that's the great equalizer. If you're the Tomb Kings here, you say, alright, well, you might have Graveguard great weapons, but it doesn't really matter. We have one of the best tools in the game for destroying infantry. Settra on that Chariot of the Gods, and he's looking pretty healthy too. I mean, not visually, he's desiccated flesh and he's a mummy, so he looks kind of disgusting, but you know what I mean. In terms of his HP bar, looking quite good. Terrorgeist Shriek missing on the Lich Priest as he scoots around the flanks of the battlefield. Blood Knights both looking healthy as well, and they're fighting together, and that is probably the biggest thing the Tomb Kings have to be afraid of. The Lahmian Vampire, the Terrorgeist, and the Blood Knights all fighting together to goon out high-value targets like Settra the Imperishable. Meanwhile, they could drop an AoE Invocation of Nehek if the Lahmian Vampire has some Winds of Magic left. But remember, she also has Penumbral Pendulum, and that was an amazing value cast there. While the Realm of Souls pops and gives these Tomb Kings a bunch of health map-wide, the Terrorgeist falls to a strike from the Lich Priest, of all things. Can you imagine that? Wrath of Patra, a beacon of knowledge and light, blazing across a black sea of ignorance, while the Lahmian Lady's cackling, feeling herself after a gorgeous pendulum that killed more than 50 models of Tomb Guard and Nakara Warriors, so super high value there. And the Blood Knights will look to retreat, while the Zombie Lady pulls away from the Tomb Guard with halberds. So the Tomb Kings actually have a lot more infantry and support around. Vampire Count's infantry is all but dead and gone at this point. They're all crumbling out, and that will leave the Lahmian Lady and her 2 Blood Knight Heavy Cav on an island unto themselves. They have no support left. It's going to be down to the single entity monster, very terrifying one, Zombie Dragon up top, and the 2 Blood Knights. Now, the Tomb Kings have a lot of infantry left, and they have some in their Ushabti. Nekara Warriors, Tomb Guard, Skeleton Warriors, a lot of infantry still on the field. But this Lich Priest is isolated, and that's one thing you've got to be very cognizant of if you're the Tomb Kings player. Do not allow your high-value stuff, either Settra or the Lich Priest, to get gooned out for free like that. Make sure you box up here. You don't really have to chase. You're not going to catch them. You don't have enough ability to do so. Just keep your single entities protected in amongst the Kemrian Legionaries. Nice charge into the Tomb Guard. Still going after the Lich Priest. Shem's Burning Gaze hitting from the flank. Should kill multiple models there. Let's see how many died as the unit retreats. Yeah, 2 or 3 Blood Knights died. And yeah, actually more like 4 Blood Knights died in that magic missile. So the Shem's Burning Gaze has been pretty effective this game at eliminating the threat from the Terrorgeist, which made almost no impact on the battle whatsoever, and getting at least a few kills here and there on the Blood Knights too. Now, Feints and Cycle Charging are the name of the game for the Lahmian Lady. Seduction going down, minus 24% speed, minus 24 melee attack. Cycle Charge coming in from the Blood Knights. On the Unbraced Halberds, Zombie Dragon bounding into the middle of the Tomb Kings formation, and again, they will look to retreat. So, the Tomb Kings will seek to weather the storm here, getting blobbed up around that Zombie Dragon, trying to drag her down through the muck. These Tomb Guard Halberds a little bit isolated, and they're giving chase now. I think the best thing to do here, if you're the Tomb Kings, is let Settra be the counter charger. So the Blood Knights go in, then Settra comes in like he's doing now, and tries to tie them down. Get him on the other side of the Zombie Dragon, and then your Tomb Kings infantry can commit. But this is what you do not want. Penumbral Pendulum slicing through a huge horde of Kemrian Legionaries, and the Tomb Guard and the Skeleton Warriors beginning to crumble out after that one. Beautiful follow-up, and now a full sandwich on this entire wing, isolated from Settra, who's there a little bit too late, although now getting some good attacks into the Lahmian Lady, but he just lost a huge swath of his own infantry, and that is a brutal blow if you're the Tomb Kings. He's certainly not out of this game. He still has full units of Tomb Guard. He still has Settra in a very healthy position, but that was rough, man, and really well played from Black Dead and the Vampire accounts to get those Tomb Kings in the position they wanted, and now you can see all of them beginning to crumble away into the desert sands of Nekara. Lahmian Lady takes off once again, and we've got a breath attack, Pestilential Breath, raining down from the heavens, rotting 1,000-year-old bones to ash, and Tomb Guard. Well, there were a lot of Tomb Guard, there are a lot less now. They were caught in a square formation, and Tomb Kings have now lost most of their support. It might just be up to Settra. Blood Knights, though, are super low. Zombie Dragon is super low. Settra is a beast on that War Chariot and still has a few Tomb Guard Halberds, but this charge might seal the deal for them. Balance Bar still dead even now, and Settra, with a couple cycle charges, might be able to finish off some of these units and still carry the day, but I'm not sure the Tomb Guard will be around to see it. This is getting incredibly close. Settra will have to put the team on his back, but these Blood Knights are so close to getting destroyed as well. A couple rear charges from Settra might be able to make them crumble. And actually, the balance bar is shifting more in the Tomb King's favor at this point. Lahmian Lady surrounded now. Tomb Guard Halberds trying to do whatever they can before they disappear from the battlefield forever. Settra still half HP. Blood Knights are crumbling. Lahmian Lady is super low and not landing any attacks on the Imperishable. We are getting super close here. Balance bar shifting ever more in the Tomb King's favor, and you can see model after model of these high-tier heavy cav for the Vampire counts dropping around Settra. Sure, he's not on horseback, he's not on foot, doesn't have bonus versus large, but he still has a decent melee value and very good attack interval when he's on top of that chariot, and he will definitely dodge that Pestilential Breath as well. So Settra doing everything he can to keep his team in this fight. By Petra, behave yourself. I shall give you a taste of my sandal. The curse hitting both Blood Knights and the Lahmian Lady, and that might melt them from the game. Lahmian Lady escaping on that Zombie Dragon looking for a cycle charge, but now Settra completely surrounded, and this will be the ultimate test of his imperishability. Zombie Summon coming down, Zombie Dragon landing on top of the Chariot of the Gods. This is so much bonus for large, so much armor piercing going his way, but Settra is holding out through it all, and there, oh my god, this is getting absolutely insane. Everything looks like it's on the edge. Blood Knights at 100 HP. Settra might crumble here too. Oh, the warriors are rallying for the vampire counts, and with one more charge coming down from that zombie dragon, the chariot of the gods falls, and vampire counts snatch victory from the jaws of defeat. And it was looking pretty bad for them for a while there. Just having Blood Knights and the zombie dragon against all that infantry and Settra, it was pretty scary that they had to deal with all those halberds, but a few perfectly placed penumbral pendulums brought them back into that game, and with some good micro on the Lahmian Lady atop her zombie steed, it meant that they were able to squeeze that one out. Crazy battle. Really well played to both players. I will say, from the Tomb King's perspective, there are a couple things I'd like to change about that build. Settra was used remarkably well here for sure, but the one thing this Tomb King's army lacked was a heavy hitter that could go toe-to-toe with the Zombie Dragon, Blood Knights, or the Terrorgeist. And that's usually going to be either the Sphinx of Usek or a Hierotitan. Both have amazing stats and really high damage output alongside flaming damage, which is obviously great versus Terrorgeist. I don't love the Chosen the Gods pick here. It's really hard to keep Grepo Ushabti online against the vampire counts, in my experience anyway, because you know they'll be bringing Blood Knights. You know none of your cav can stop them, so basically all a counts player has to do is drop some summons on the Great Bows, force them back out of your box, and then the Blood Knights or the Zombie Dragons or the Terrorgeist will eat them alive. So, going for a big single entity construct in the center of all that infantry would have really helped out Settra, would have given you some more mass and more killing power whenever the Zombie Dragon, Blood Knights, or Terrorgeist commit. With that said though, with the tools that he did bring, I think he used them exceptionally well. The Sepulchral Stalkers, the Net of Ammontok, the Shem's Burning Gaze play, all of that combined meant that the vampire counts barely won that game, and a few changes where he didn't get pendulumed, he probably wins that. But GG to both players, well played. Awesome game to watch.